Hello guys, welcome to another video. Today we're gonna talk about dual citizenship, how anyone, including you, can get a second passport. In this video, I'm going to discuss a number of ways to get a second citizenship. And here are the topics I'm going to cover in this video. Firstly, we're gonna talk about the benefits of dual citizenship, what you can actually do, and why so many people want to get a second passport. Then, we're gonna talk about a number of ways in which you can get a second citizenship. The first one, the long and cheap way, when you move to a country and live there for a number of years. The second one, when you get a second citizenship involuntarily. This can be through ancestry or being born in a country. Then we're gonna talk about getting a second citizenship by investment, which in many cases is actually not an investment, it might be a donation. Then we're gonna talk about getting a second citizenship through marriage, which in most cases is actually not possible, but I'll get into details when we come to that. Finally, we're gonna talk about having a citizenship that makes it easier to get another citizenship. In some cases, your current citizenship may reduce the time in a given country you have to live there to get a different citizenship, depending on the relations between the countries. And finally, cases in which you cannot have dual citizenship and what you can do to get around that if your ultimate goal is to have more than one citizenship. And before we start, the usual talk: if you want to travel, move, or invest abroad, or buy property abroad, or do something abroad, hit the like button, check our other videos, book a consultation call with me, the link is in the description, and most importantly, subscribe! Let's start! Before we get to the ways in which you can get a second citizenship, I will just quickly number some of the benefits of having dual citizenship. The first, most obvious benefit is visa-free travel. One of the most obvious ways that make people want to have a second citizenship is by making your life greatly easier when traveling. Even if you have a strong passport, you may still need to apply for visas when visiting a number of other countries. Here is an example. Let's imagine you have two passports. You're Canadian and you also have an Argentine passport, which are two quite strong passports with visa-free access to a number of countries in the world, including visa-free access to the Schengen area and to the UK. But with an Argentinian passport, you cannot travel to the US without a visa, which is relatively difficult to get. With the Canadian passport, on the other hand, you can travel to Russia without a visa, which is also pretty hard to get. However, if you have these two nationalities, you can travel visa-free to the US with your Canadian passport, and you can travel visa-free to Russia with your passport issued by Argentina. The second advantage of having dual citizenship is being able to work in a much wider number of countries. Let's imagine the following situation. If you have an EU passport, you can work freely in all members of the European Union. If you couple that with a passport from Uruguay, which allows you to work in most countries in South America, the sum of holding these two passports allows you to have free access to the job market in roughly 50 countries. Now let's talk about the third advantage of having dual citizenship. It comes down to minimizing economic instability. Let's say you live in a country with low economic stability that may be subject to currency devaluation or a banking system collapse. We can take the recent and unfortunate case of Lebanon, which is a beautiful country but in a very complicated economic situation right now. If you have Lebanese citizenship, but also have French citizenship, which is relatively common among Lebanese considering the relations between the two countries, you can protect your wealth and avoid being subject to capital controls using your French citizenship to bank in France or elsewhere in the EU. There are many other advantages of having dual citizenship. I just named a few ones to broaden your ideas regarding dual citizenship. Now let's analyze a few ways to acquire a second citizenship and improve your possibilities in terms of residency, wealth protection, traveling, and overall life opportunities. The first way to get a second passport, I call it the long and cheap way. The most effective way to get a second passport is, in my opinion, the most common one and also the cheapest one. The only disadvantage of it is that it usually takes a lot of time to get it. In this way, you'll basically move to a country for whatever purpose: working, opening a company, retiring, and then by staying there a number of years, you can acquire your second citizenship. Initially, you'll get a temporary residence permit that requires a renewal every 1 or 2 years. After a number of years living in this country, you'll be able to apply for citizenship. This way of getting citizenship is available in the majority of countries in Europe, North America, and South America. It also works in many Asian countries, although some countries in Asia make it extremely complicated or even impossible to become a citizen. but in most of them it is actually possible to become a citizen. This is the cheapest way, as it does not involve a donation or an investment to become a citizen of a given country. On the other hand, it takes the longest amount of time, as most countries will require you to live at least 5 years in their territory before you can apply. Now let's talk about the second way to get a second citizenship. The second way is what I call the involuntary basis. There are two ways in which you can get a citizenship even without planning to get it. Firstly, we're going to talk about citizenship by ancestry. Do you have a parent, a grandparent, or even a great-grandparent that was a citizen of another country? If so, odds are you can apply for the same citizenship as your ancestors, regardless whether they are alive or not. The law changes from country to country, and many countries make it actually quite difficult to acquire citizenship this way. But in many cases, it is actually extremely easy. The most popular country in this regard is probably Italy. If you have an ancestor who was or is Italian, and you can prove a direct line with documents showing that he was Italian and he or she was your ancestor, you are eligible to apply for Italian citizenship. In this type of citizenship by ancestry, you usually do not even have to live a single day in the country of your ancestor. Neither you have to know the language, but once again, it depends from country to country. In Hungary, for example, if you speak intermediate Hungarian, it is much easier to acquire citizenship by ancestry than if you don't. The second sort of involuntary basis to acquire citizenship is when you are born in a country that grants citizenship automatically to anyone who is born there. This is the case for most countries in the Americas, from Argentina up to Canada. In Europe and Asia, that is rarely the case. But in some European countries, being born in the territory of the country reduces drastically the amount of time one has to reside there in order to become a citizen. For example, in the case of Spain, a child born to foreign parents can apply for Spanish citizenship after just living 1 year in the country. Now we're going to talk about the most expensive way in which you can get a second citizenship, which is citizenship by investment. Citizenship by investment has become quite popular, but also very controversial in the last few decades. So let's analyze why. In a number of countries, you can actually buy citizenship in a relatively straightforward process. In some of these countries, you will invest an amount of money and pay fees, and in return the country will grant you their citizenship. In other countries, you actually have to make a donation and also pay fees. So you will actually not see your invested money coming back, but you will still get the right to hold their passport. Most countries offering this type of citizenship by investment are in the Caribbean. Some examples are Grenada and St. Lucia. You can travel visa-free to both the European Union and the UK with those passports. In Europe, these programs have faced a lot of scrutiny. Cyprus was quite famous for its citizenship by investment program, which is not available anymore. North Macedonia is the most recent country in Europe to offer citizenship by investment. Now we're gonna talk about when does marriage makes a difference when getting a second citizenship. Many people have a false assumption that if you marry a citizen of a given country, you will be eligible to apply for his or her citizenship. While this used to be true in the past, currently it is almost non-existent. Cape Verde, however, a small island nation in Africa, is one of the few countries in the world that currently offers citizenship by marriage instantaneously. In many other countries, getting married to a citizen will greatly reduce the number of years you have to live in the country before you can apply for citizenship. And in some exceptional cases, like in Italy, if you are married to an Italian for a few years, even if you do not reside in Italy, you can apply for citizenship. So, all around the world, it is almost never instantaneous, except in Cape Verde, as far as I know. If you know in some other country in which you can get married and get the citizenship instantaneously, write down in the comments section below. Now we're going to talk about the situation in which having a certain citizenship makes it easier to get another citizenship. In some cases, simply by having one citizenship, it may make your life greatly easier when getting a second citizenship. Let's analyze two examples. The first example is Spain, which allows citizens of Spanish-speaking countries in Latin America, Brazil, Portugal, and a few other countries with strong cultural ties to Spain to apply for citizenship just 2 years after residing in Spain. But at the same time, that doesn't apply to other EU countries. So for example, if you are a citizen of Austria, even if Austria and Spain are part of the European Union, you will need to live in Spain for at least 10 years before you can apply for citizenship. And if you are, for example, from Bolivia, after 2 years living in Spain, you can already apply. The second case applies to some exceptions that will reduce your residence years required to apply for citizenship among EU members. In the case of Romania, for example, usually citizens need to live 8 years in the country to be able to apply for citizenship. But if you are already a citizen of another EU country, after 4 years in Romania, you can already apply for citizenship in the country. Finally, we come to the last part of this video, which is cases in which you cannot have dual citizenship and how you can fix that. In some cases, you'll not be able to actually get a second citizenship. You'll either have to stay with the current one you already have, or take the one you are applying to and renounce your previous citizenship. This happens when one or both countries involved in this equation do not allow dual citizenship. Two cases I can mention as an example are the following. If an Indian citizen wants to take on British citizenship, Britain allows dual citizenship, but India does not. You actually have to give up your Indian citizenship if you want to become a citizen of the United Kingdom. Once you become a citizen of the United Kingdom, you can then move to the US, for example, and after a few years you can apply for citizenship. This way you'll be a dual citizen of the US and the UK, even if you were born in India and once held its citizenship in the past. The second example is Germany, which does not allow dual citizenship if you're applying for citizenship by naturalization of a country outside the European Union or Switzerland. You can move to Portugal, for example, which also allows dual citizenship, and after some years apply for the Portuguese citizenship. In this case, you can keep both, the German one and the Portuguese one. But if you move to the US and apply for American citizenship, even if the US allows dual citizenship, you have to renounce your German passport to acquire American citizenship, since Germany does not allow dual citizenship in this case. So that's it for today's video. Do you have a dual citizenship? Write a comment below. And then, if you have any questions regarding dual citizenship, you can also send me a message below. And as always, have to say this to end the video. If you want to travel, move, or invest abroad, hit the like button. Check our other videos, book a consultation call with me. It will be a pleasure for me to help you planning your immigration strategy. And most importantly, subscribe. See you next time.